Good morning, my fellow YouTubers. Hope everyone watching this is doing well. I just, this morning, taking a nice long bath, I remembered a real dichotomy within my covert narcissistic mother that's emblematic, that is representative of something else bigger that's going on. So, I was expected to show up at one of two houses on average once every other month on average. And it was about every other party where this would happen. And so that would be once every 4 months. So 3 times a year on average, at least. Sometimes it would get up, closer to 5 or 6. But I think overall 4 is a pretty good number. So let me explain the action that would take place, and then I'll explain afterwards how it really speaks volumes. Okay, so I'd be standing right here. I'm going to be my mother. And then there'd be my children, almost always, and other family members right here. Always my stepfather, my mother's new husband. Okay, so she would put this hand on my neck. Okay, she's like 4'11" now. So it'd be up here. So mainly what they would see is just a hand, like an embrace, kind of going up the back. But the hand was always on the neck. And then this hand would be reaching across, holding my right hand. So reaching across me. And then she's turning and speaking to all of these people. And what she would be saying is nicknames for me, affirmations of how much she loves me, how cute I am, especially maybe as a little baby, how cute I was. So what these people are seeing is one mask, and that is the mask of a doting mother that loves her child, has very fond memories of how an adorable baby he was, has little terms of endearment, cutie pie. And she'd say little things like this as she'd look at me. He's always been my little cutie pie, and he was so adorable. He was my angel, and all this other stuff. Okay, so you have the things working towards that is obviously the body language, the facial expressions, the tone of voice, and the embrace. So you have a lot going for the one mask that is always shown to the general populace. However, this hand on the neck would represent a second mask, and it was intentional for me to see, I feel, that second mask. But no one else is to perceive it, because it's like, okay, watch this hand, and then this hand does something over here. So she's giving this body language, these facial expressions, voice tone, the physicality of the embrace, the actual words she's using, the terms of endearment, the stories about my childhood or whatever. So all of these things, people aren't going to notice that this hand on my neck is gripping my neck with every ounce of power. Now, this little 85-year-old has incredible grip strength. Call her Grip Armstrong, my goodness. And she would squeeze as hard as she possibly could. Okay, now let me divert from that for a second and say that this would happen to both me and my brother. We were the only two kids in our family. My brother's 4.5 years my senior. And he was the golden child, and I was obviously 4.5 years younger, and I was the scapegoat. So when she would do this to him, he'd play it up. He would let everyone know that she is hurting me. She is demonstrating her dominance, and in the way that she is doing it, it's causing me severe physical pain. So he'd squirm away from it, and he'd like, ow, you're hurting me. And he'd have fun with it, and she'd laugh too, but she'd always go right back because he would get loose of the grip, and then she'd go right back. Or if she couldn't get the neck, she'd use the upper arm, like right here. So, it's a dichotomy. I use that word because the reality of how hard she would be gripping and trying to cause physical pain, I believe, it's this expression. You ever use those hand grippers? On number 50, 47, 48, 49, 50, and that's what's really going on. But the expression for the audience is this nice, peaceful, loving smile. But inside, it's, I am dominant. I have control. I am the matriarch. I am the leader. I am, this all-powerful being. I deserve worship. I demand worship. So what's being presented is 180 degrees different than really the message that's being sent to either my brother or myself in that moment, whoever was dealing with it. So, my way of reacting was I was basically so starved for positive affirmations and to feel like these integral, important family members, how good it is for them to hear something positive of me, and at the same time for my mother to say she loves me or these positive things. So I would just tolerate the pain and just look at these faces of these loved ones I have and say, isn't it great that my mother is saying these things about me? The pain I was feeling in my neck was 1,000 miles away. So my brother could care less, about the positive affirmations and the kind words being spoke. And he would just want to fool around and laugh and make fun of the situation. So there's our two different ways of dealing with it, because, my brother's mask is always coming off as the jovial, charming, funny man, that people enjoy being around because he'll make you laugh. So he was always contributing to that impression of him as the funny guy, the guy that you feel good around because he lightens the mood and he makes you laugh. So he was completely focused on that the whole time he was in the party. On Easter, I can't tell you how many times I'd have to hear, Happy Easter, watch your keister. So every Easter, he'd just be saying that all day long. And, that's the way he was, extremely enthusiastic, energetic, and trying to make everyone laugh. That was his mask, his persona, that he would present to everyone. The average person that would go to these parties would never believe that my brother has fits of rage and that he actually will try to control his little brother, his wife, his children with threats of violence and rage and threats of physicality. I'm bigger than you, I'm stronger than you, let me get in your face, let me hit the table really hard. 90% of these people would not believe that in this person. but that was the true person beneath the mask. So you can see how good these individuals get at getting their cronies and their flying monkeys and their social spheres believing in the mask. One other little side weird thing, since we're talking about weird things that the narcissist at the top of a narcissistic family cult will do, I'll just have a little caveat and throw this in there. So, there was always this thing being passed around by, initially, just my brother. But then around 35 years ago, my mother got involved. And then, within like maybe the last 10 years, other family members starting to get involved with this. So my stepfather, my stepsister, and other people would make verbal comments, all giving me a thumb in the ribs, giving me a little shot. Haha, gotcha. How do you feel about that? And this one was that I copied my brother. Now, nothing could be farther than the truth, because my whole childhood was him demanding, you wear these shoes. I don't want you wearing those shoes. That was our favorite band last month. I've given you 3 warnings in the last month that we do not admit to liking that band anymore. And we do not listen to that album anymore. I've told you 3 times, this is our 3 favorite bands. And this is all we're into. And I've given you for a birthday present this album. For Christmas, I gave you this album. And then I gave you enough money to go buy that 3rd album. Have you bought that 3rd album yet? And so it was always right out in the open that you are under my control. You're supposed to act how I act. You're supposed to do what I do. You're supposed to laugh at everything I say, and so on and so forth. So the first time it really came in my face, I was about 19, and my brother's best friend, they shared a house together that they were renting. And my brother's best friend looks at me and says, "Don't you get tired of copying your brother?" And my brother was right there. And he just kind of looks down at the ground, like shakes his head, like, I'm so tired of this guy copying the way I talk, the way I act, the clothes I wear, blah, 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 blah. And I was just so flabbergasted. It literally felt like someone took a baseball bat, ran up behind me without my knowledge, and hit me in the back of the head. Literally, I mean, it was like I was floating in air. I almost had an out-of-body experience, because the weight of that situation told me how much my brother's being psychologically manipulative, because he's demanding that I copy everything about him my whole life. Now here I am 19, and I've been getting weird feelings from all of his friends. So I had my group of friends that looked up to his group of friends, because we were in a music scene environment and in a specific neighborhood where my brother's friends were in bands and were promoters, music, in having albums printed and promoting them. And me and my friends looked up to that music scene and band members and actually being in charge of record labels and so on and so forth. And they're respected in the broader town of nightclubbing and stuff like that. So my friends really looked up to them. But I started noticing in my brother's friends that they didn't want to interact with me. They looked down at me, and I didn't know why. And it all just hit me that my brother is portraying an image to his friends that I am a loser that has no self-concept, no self-identity, and only gloms onto him and just is just a needy individual that needs and usurps as much energy and influence and everything from my brother. And my brother just tolerates it because he's magnanimous. He's just such a kind-hearted person that loves his little brother, even though he's a headache. And this is what covert narcissists often always do. They'll pin their family members as the ones they extremely love, but they're so needy. At least the target, the scapegoat or the black sheep. So what my mother would do is she would always go out. I mean, I had a goatee and a bald head for years before my brother did. And yet he was able to convince everyone that when he got a goatee and a bald head, years after I had been worried that he did it first and I copied him. And it's like, I can show you pictures on my phone. That's not true. No one cared what the truth was. People only cared, and this is all the family members, only cared what the story was that had been put forth. And that was that I copied my brother in everything. Now, mind you, my brother gets his persona. I mean, for like 15 years, he was a mobster. Robert De Niro, he'd watch the guy over and over in Goodfellas and study how mobsters were portrayed in these Hollywood movies, and that was his persona. And yet he says I copy him. He only got his persona from others, always usurping and glomming on to different ways of walking, talking, dressing, and glomming on and stealing people's, it's called mirroring, right? And so, that he is just a total shell of a human, false, nothing's real about him. And he's demanding that I copy his whims as they change regularly. And I have to stay up to beat. And he's demanding that I copy it, follow him through all his different styles of dress and vernaculars and ways of talking, like he's from New Jersey or whatever. And then to pin that off on me as being this intolerable, leech. He's the host, and I'm just this leech that he can't shake, sucking his blood, sucking his life force out of him, because I have to copy him. I'm so needy and everything. So what our mother would do, though, is, because, I started exercising some of my own style, going out of my way to do things that he would not do. So what my mother would do is she'd go out and buy us the exact same sport coat. She'd go out and buy us the exact same beanie. Or she'd go out and buy us the exact same Pendleton. So this one Pendleton, this very Western-looking Pendleton by Lucky, had those little pearl buttons that snap closed, and you got like 3 here also, and on the pocket. Very Western shirt, very worn out looking, made to look very, very old and faded, and it was a Pendleton. And we were both given this shirt, and then I started noticing that literally for about 2 years, he wore that shirt almost to every single family party. And then the sports coat, he started wearing that regularly to every family party. The beanies, that we both had the exact same beanie. Every time I saw him when it wasn't a party, like going surfing or something, he'd be wearing that beanie. And so now all of a sudden I've got a lot of clothes. There's other clothes I'm not mentioning right now, but that I get a lot of clothes that I just wouldn't want to wear because it would fall in line with this false agenda that's being pumped out there, that Sheldon has no sense of identity. He doesn't know who he is. And poor Mark has to tolerate this guy that he's not even that close to anymore, literally copying the way he walks, talks, dresses, interacts with people, everything. It's such a headache. So, these are just weird things that, the further and further you get from being abused and being the scapegoat in a narcissistic family cult, the more and more these thoughts come back to you. And it's good because it's things bubbling to the surface that have been shoved down, and have been tried to look away from because they're really too hurtful and painful. But after 3 years, they're not really hurtful or painful anymore, and they're very easy to deal with, and it makes for good content, right? Because there's nothing like living it for 50 some odd years, as opposed to just watching YouTube videos or reading about, I have master's degrees in psychology and a bachelor's degree in psychology, so I would study a lot of different personality traits, a lot of different disorders, personality disorders and whatnot. And you could kind of understand them, but you'll never understand them as good as if you lived it yourself. So just some interesting things that people don't normally talk about that show you that there is this team effort, one, and there is always the head narcissist when there's a narcissistic vibe throughout the family. Call it a narcissistic family cult, call it everyone obeys unstated laws, everyone understands and obeys unstated laws. Within toxic families, everyone has a role to play, call it whatever you will, but there's this ways of stating rules that I'm dominant, I'm the one you never go against, while they're saying to everyone how much they love you. Bizarre. This, we have to keep the golden child looking like so cool, and we have to keep the scapegoat looking like just a loser that has no sense of himself or self-concept, self-identity, and has to emulate the big, important one. My mother would always say how smart my brother was. That was the main image. Other than funny guy, it was that he was super witty and intelligent. So that intelligence is also viewed in the sense of humor. But especially with strangers. My brother had to win you over within the first 5 minutes that he was super strong, super intelligent, in every single way. It's kind of funny because my dad was also a spoiled brat as a kid, causing him to become a narcissist. He was also beaten, so his father was a narcissist. Our family bloodlines on both sides is just so toxic and so dysfunctional. But my dad would do the same hand grip to my mother when he was feeling affectionate towards her, but he wouldn't grip hard. He would just, when he was feeling happy with her and they were walking, he would put a hand right on the back of her neck. And I always thought it was kind of strange, like too domineering and controlling, but that's what he wanted. He wanted her to feel some of his dominance and some of his control, even when he was just being happy with her and sharing a romantic moment or just a moment with me and my brother, and we're all down at the beach and the sun is setting or whatever. But that was kind of strange, But then with me and my brother, if we were seriously in trouble, we'd get that same hand clamp, but really strong. Once again, as hard as he could grip the neck. So you'd want to almost cry out, as a little child, I can't handle it. But obviously you didn't want to go there. So he'd grip us on the back of the neck, kind of escort us away from whatever's the people. And he would say things like, what did I say when we were driving up here? You said not to behave loud. And what are you doing? Behaving loudly, sir? What are you going to stop doing? I'm going to stop behaving loudly. And then always he'd finish up, he'd get down close and put a finger right in the face and go, you better mean that, or there's going to be hell to pay when we get home, And so it was a severe dominant thing. So, it's funny that my mom would then use that same thing whenever we got in trouble out in public, that threatening hand grip on the neck, would be the same thing she would use when she was trying to convince everyone that we love, that we were loved. Yet at the same time, knowing that she's conveying a message of dominance and even possible disciplinary repercussions if you don't say and do the things I am telling you to say and do. So kind of rambled on, but I think it's interesting, these topics. Leave a hit on the like button, leave a comment, and share this video. You know, I'm getting much less shares than I used to. My beard is all out of whack. God bless you. Have a good day. I'll talk to you later.